Heather Ann Antonacci, executive coach and chair with Vistage Florida. I am super excited to be here today with Laresa Tapia. Laresa is the inventor and CEO of Polyblocks. She's going to blow you away with her story and what Polyblocks is all about. So welcome, Laresa.
Oh my gosh. Hello, Heather. Thank you.
How are you?
Great to be here.
Are you excited to do this?
I am so excited. I love our chats, so I'm very excited. You inspire me.
I am excited to have you here. I want everybody to know about Polyblocks because I think it is just, I think it's incredible. So let's start there. I'm going to have you just go ahead. We're talk about Polyblocks, your journey, you know, how you ended up where you are right now. Let's educate everyone on this amazing, amazing thing you're doing.
Thank you. My journey began probably as a child. And let me just start by saying what Polyblocks are, so you have a frame of reference for what I'm going to talk about. Polyblocks are modern ABC blocks. I love the phrase, it's the toy that teaches. And I would even add, it's the toy that teaches togetherness. Polyblocks are four-sided blocks, but they're elongated and they're kind of totem shaped. I'm holding them up. And you can see that they've got letters on each side and the vowels are red. And they've got pictures and they've got Braille, sign language. The numbers at the bottom are ABC order. And then they've got shapes and colors on the top. They are also augmented. So we are working on a new technology where we can hold these up and dynamic educational content will appear that will complement whatever's on the block. So this particular block is an A and it has an airplane. So we could attach a dynamic augmented reality video lesson to this block that the child could enjoy. So it's a manipulative and it's a tactile learning product. And I'm really excited because
I'm going to stop you right there because I just want you to repeat the two things that are on these blocks that just blew my mind the first time I met you. Sign language and Braille.
Yes. That is really special. And I will tell you that goes back to my origin story, if you will.
Yes, please continue.
I grew up volunteering with my mom. Now, my mother was raised in the South, North Carolina, and she was not educated, did not go to college. In fact, she graduated from high school the year before I went to that high school. So all of the people above me knew my mother. So education was very important to her. She just didn't have the opportunity because she met my dad, fresh back from Vietnam, and got married and had 6 children before she was 30 years old. Wow. So raising 6 children, you would think she wouldn't have time to do anything else, but she did. And growing up with a mother who cared so much about education and even more about children, I got to accompany her on different volunteer opportunities. My mother would always, she was very active in March of Dimes at the time, and she would take me with her, and I would end up playing with children who had severe autism, who were nonverbal, and I quickly learned signs for bathroom or eat or drink. And just, the differences between us were never an issue. And so I didn't grow up being fearful of people who had different abilities, whether they were learning or physical, whatever it was, than myself. I always was just curious and excited. And I really credit my mom for putting that into my heart. I also had a best friend named, I shouldn't say her name probably, but I had a best friend growing up. And she was blind and she couldn't see. And I just remember being so bitterly jealous of her because I thought, this is so unfair. You can read in the dark. And every night I have to put my Nancy Drew book down. And if you read Nancy Drew, at the end of every chapter, it's a cliffhanger. And my mom was really, lights out, lights out. So I try to sneak under and I always think of Nikki as like, that is so unfair. She can just read all the time. So I grew up just with a healthy respect and a little bit of envy, I think, for my friends that had special abilities that I was kind of jealous of. And so when I fast forward many, many years, when I had my son, I really, I didn't want to raise him the way I had been raised as far as being, growing up poor, things like that. I was like, how do I give him that grit that comes with sacrifice and, put him in those positions where he's encountering children who are different than him, different abilities. And I started sketching out an idea for blocks that had Braille on them, that had sign language on them. And I wanted him to know, this is the way you learn, but there are people who experience the ocean differently than you do, experience the sun differently than you do. And we would have wonderful conversations about that. And it just kind of evolved from there, and it kept going, and we kept adding to the blocks. And I actually was so humbled and privileged to be welcomed with open arms by the deaf community. And one of the biggest honors, I think, next to getting my patent, was last year I met Patty Sanchez at one of our nonprofit partners, McDonald Training Center in Tampa. And I don't know if you know do you know what a name sign is? Have you heard of a name sign?
So, no.
Yeah, a lot of people aren't familiar with it, but it's a huge honor. And it's basically can only be gifted to you by a member of the deaf community. And it's not something that they gift, casually. It's a really big deal. And when I went there, Patty was so moved by polyblocks and I knew about name signs. And I had asked her, I wonder if there would ever be a time where polyblocks could earn a name sign. And she says, I am gifting you a name sign. And so she actually created, and I'm going to show it to you. And it's on our Facebook as well, but it's PPB in sign language. So instead of saying or spelling out the whole word polyblocks, polyblocks has its own name within the deaf community. So it can be referred to as PPB, so polyblocks, instead of spelling out the whole language. So that was a huge honor, because it's not something that is done lightly, and it's a sign of respect. And honestly, next to my patent, I think I cried for days when she gifted me that. I was so honored.
Well enough to know you probably did cry for days.
I did, yes. And
but that's beautiful.
Thank you. Yes. And we also our blocks are a little different. And so we refer to them as totems. But I also wanted to be respectful of that word, which I know originated with Indigenous Americans. So I actually tracked down, with the help of a former student who's a Nickelodeon executive, a veteran, and an Indigenous American. So we went through the Crow tribe, the Tlingit tribe, the Ojibwa tribe, and we actually was brought up before their elders, and it was the Ojibwa and the Tlingit that still make the totems. They took it before their elders, and they said, well, one of the things that a totem does is it protects culture, and our language is dying, and our language is being lost, and that's our culture. So in fact, polyblocks act in the true nature of a totem. And so I got permission to refer to blocks as totems. So that was a huge honor. So my journey has just been varied in it. The inspiration that you get to keep going evolves. My son was also diagnosed with Asperger's, so he actually learns very differently. And it was neat to take polyblocks and adapt it to ways that he learns. And we've heard so many stories of parents coming up with ways to use polyblocks that I never imagined. Even people with seniors with aphasia, different people use polyblocks for different ways. But the base, I guess, the mission is to spread joyful inclusion and empathy, and just raise children that are going to make our world awesome. Just awesome, because they're growing up with big, huge hearts, ready to embrace everyone that's, different. And I think it's timely, and it's got all of the academics. We're certified in STEAM, we're certified in social emotional, we've been researched, and, all that good stuff. We've got the power and the punch, but the real heart of it is, just empathy and joyful inclusion.
So Laresa, I'm curious, what are some of the reactions that you see from children when they're first introduced to polyblocks? Like, are they excited? I mean, do they look at it kind of strangely? Tell me about that.
The reactions vary. It's from picking them up and making towers. They're always excited. They're always curious. And what I love is they're drawn to touch them. They don't just look at them. They never, when we do trade shows and we have the blocks everywhere, they just start gravitating toward them. And depending on their age, they do different things at different ages. So the little ones will make, the Leaning Tower of Pisa. So all day long, if I'm at a trade show, I hear blocks crashing. The big ones will come and spell naughty words. And this is a true story. I was at a trade show, and a little boy came up and he spelled fart, right? And he thought he could change it because his mom walked up. And I said, oh, no. Put the word that you had. And so we spelled fart. I said, I'm going to use the word your son just spelled here to teach you what polyblocks do. I said, this is fart. Can you see the vowels in fart? Here's A, and it's red. I said, and now we're going to spell it in sign language. And oh, it was so funny. And now we're going to feel fart in Braille. This is what it feels like when you read fart in Braille. His mom was laughing so hard, and he was just dying. He was like, oh my gosh, this lady's crazy. So, they're always impressed. And I get a lot of, how did you think of that? How did you come up with it? And, I appreciate it. My favorite reaction I think that I've ever had from a child was a little girl at one school. And I was just walking down the hall. I was going to do a news bit. And I passed the little class of, I think they were kindergartners. And the teacher said, she's the one who invented polyblocks. And the little girl just looked up at me, and her whole face, it was just a mixture of surprise and just impressed. And it was like, I never thought of being an inspiration, you know what I mean? But I could see it on her face. And I thought in that second, I felt a greater sense of responsibility to be successful. And to keep doing what I'm doing, even though it's hard, because the way that she looked at me like and I just looked at her, I was like, girls can do anything. Girls can do anything. And it was just, that stuck with me so much. So the reactions are amazing and wonderful. I've never had a bad reaction ever, and I'm so blessed and thankful and grateful for that.
Yeah, and I will tell you, so just so everyone listening and watching this knows, I had a box, a kit of the polyblocks. I mean, as soon as we met, and I was going home last Christmas to visit family, and my daughter has 3 little ones, and at the time, they were 7, 5, and 4. And I gave them the box of polyblocks because it was so important for me. I was blessed to have, 3 strong, healthy grandchildren. And it was so important for me that my daughter teach them how to use these blocks and understand the importance, of what these blocks, what they represented. It wasn't just, Nanny brought me, another toy. So I was moved by as soon as I was introduced to them. So
you are a true Poly Peep. You need to tell your listeners and your viewers how we connected. Do you know what I'm talking? The ELOs, the Early Learning Coalition.
Oh,
that was
yeah.
Too funny.
Okay. So I will steal the spotlight from you for 1 second because yes,
Please.
This is a great story. So the Early Learning Coalition of Orange County is, headed up by a wonderful woman who I'm going to give a plug right now, Karen Willis, who is doing some amazing things during COVID-19 right now to try and help the kids. And so went to a fundraising type luncheon. And Laresa and I, had known about each other, met each other, previously, but hadn't really seen each other in a while. So all of a sudden we get to the end, of this fundraising luncheon, and I'm at one end of the room and Laresa's at the other. And they announced, I think it was a basket. It was like a wrapped basket or something, right?
That I won for crying, basically.
Yeah, and they award this basket to Laresa, and she was just this emotional, bundle, of tears and joy and everything that goes with it. And I literally got up out of my chair and I was like, that's Laresa. All right, I have to get over there because I have to get her connected with Karen Willis, who is running the Early Learning Coalition. It was an incredible day. It was one of those moments. And you had it in your
purse. That was
Pardon me? I had my polyblocks with me. Well, because
people need to know these weigh like 5 pounds. I loved you right away. I was like, she has these in her purse. I don't even carry them in my purse. I carry one. That's it. You had the whole set.
I had brought the set because my intention, my whole intention, aside from supporting, Karen and ELCOC was I have got to show Karen these polyblocks because this was just it just blew my mind when I was introduced to them. so being able, so they're in my purse, and I think I'm going to introduce Karen to those, and what ends up happening is introducing Karen to the inventor of those.
That was so crazy, so awesome. I did donate a case to them later, so
yeah,
hopefully they're loving it as much as you do.
Well, so anyway, I stole your spotlight without intending to do that, but you're right. The story is a great one, and
I love
you know, it really just kind of screams that not only is timing everything, but, you know, I believe that, you know, the energy, the universe, the powers that be, the spiritual power, all of that kind of brings people together when it's supposed to.
Amazing.
And that's really what happened that day.
Yes, I love you. It was great.
All right. So you said something very interesting that's going to lead me into the next question. You were telling the story about when you walked by and that little girl saw you, and you made a statement. You said, you know, girls can do anything, or girl power, or something like that. So what have you learned anything, or anything that you would want to share in terms of being a female entrepreneur trying to launch a business?
I'm probably gonna you know, plug a few people and organizations, because I think the biggest thing that I've learned is there's a lot of power in the sisterhood. I really feel connected to organizations like the Women's Executive Council, National Association of Women Business Owners, the SBA. There are different places and for that you can get those resources, because you cannot do it alone. And I think that it is difficult. And, you know, I'm about to pivot. You know, Polyblocks is a manipulative, but we're also an educational tech company. So about to pivot and accentuate the tech side of it, which is traditionally a very male-dominated area. So it is really important. One thing that I've learned is it's important who you know and the relationships that you cultivate, the people you surround yourself with. I think that is priceless. And most of the steps forward that I've taken, I would say 90% of them have been women lifting me up and pushing me forward, like you, like Marianne Palm, like so many different women entrepreneurs that take time out of their busy schedule to help rise with other women. And I think that's what I've learned, is that it as busy as you are, always take the time to nurture those relationships and cultivate that sisterhood. That's so important.
That's fantastic. That's great advice, and advice you definitely live by. That benefits us all, actually. What does the future look like for Polyblocks? I mean, where do you see it? Say, you know, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years?
Well, I hope in 10 years that it's that someone else owns it. That's the end game, is that I'm building the brand, but it's already almost more than I can handle, because it's really, it's a big idea. It's deceptively simple. These, ABC blocks, but we are also partnering with amazing people in the community. You know, we've had a lot of research studies done. We've had those research studies done by Rollins. We're going to be hopefully working with UCF, and we are partnering with Full Sail to create a proof of concept for an educational, immersive educational game, which is tricky, because what age, right? We can't do virtual reality for the little ones. You know, there's a lot of documentation out there that says that's good for them later on. So there's a lot of research that goes into what you decide to do next. But what we're doing is we've had to pivot. You know, my last pre-pandemic Polyblocks, that's a mouthful. My last pre-pandemic Polyblocks adventure was going to New York Toy Fair and meeting with my buyers, you know, at Barnes & Noble and Mattel and big, huge companies that are like, we are so excited for your next project. We're going to fly you back up. We're going to see you in Vegas. We're going to, you know, come out to California, which is fantastic. I came home. This was a very heady experience. I came home with hundreds of contacts and cards I'm still following up with, you know, and accepted into Mattel's Inventor Portal, all kinds of great opportunities. But then we have the eventual and inevitable closing down of the world. So we didn't go to Vegas. That was canceled. So I had to pivot quickly. And it was always in the cards within the next 3 years to move Polyblocks into what it was meant to be, which is a subscription educational technology company. And so that is the pivot that we're making now, is, you know, why wait? We're all home. We've got these amazing, incredible partners like UCF and Full Sail, McDonald's Training Center. I hope to move manufacturing here to the US is number one for the tactile portion of it. Hope to move manufacturing here. The other side to it is we want to get these educational games where children are having a very immersive kind of integrated learning experience that's joyful, and where children of all abilities can connect online and learn together and be together in a virtual environment. So, that's important to me. And I often, when I'm interviewed, I love to share another experience I had that really impacted me about how important joyful inclusion is. And I went to volunteer at a friend's school where she teaches children with special needs. And I brought my son, Enzo, and at first he was a little nervous. He's like, what are they going to bite me? He was little. He's like, what's going to happen? So, just putting him at ease and say, no, you're safe. It's a good environment. It's going to be fine. And I tell you, within, a minute, it was like he never wanted to leave. He just started playing with the kids and reading with them, and it was wonderful. But, lunchtime. So my friend starts asking her friends in the classroom to line up and get ready for lunch. And they've got beautiful systems and ways that they do this. And they use visuals and all kinds of things. And we started to walk down the hall to go to lunch. And as we were going to lunch, another class, almost the same age, of children, maybe a little older, but they were coming to go to the playground. So these two groups of children are passing each other in lines in the hallway. In my world, in the world that I want to see happen, and the parents that I want to connect with and partner with, those kids would have high-fived each other. They would have played together. They would have eaten together. But in the world that exists right now, in that school, those children went, to the lunchroom with their wheelchairs and their beeps and their clicks and their drool and their quirkiness. And the other children were just, didn't even look at them. Their eyes were face down. It was almost like they were scared. And I was like, what are we doing here? It really, really, it upset me and it stuck with me. And I thought, this is not okay. We need to have opportunities, and it doesn't have to be maybe, in all the classrooms, but let them play together. Let them eat together. A lot of these children with special needs go home and their parents don't have special needs. Their brothers and sisters don't have special needs. So there really should be more opportunities for this joyful inclusion. And we're robbing children of life lessons and empathy lessons by keeping them completely apart. And so that made me sad. And I thought, Polyblocks is going to do something about that. So that's what we're working on.
That's a fantastic story. And you bring up such a good point, and that, children with special needs, when they do go home, they're interacting with parents and siblings and, and it's like everybody else's household. So, that's a great story, Laresa. That's a great story. Tell me, so we've talked, about your journey and, you mentioned your mom early on, and obviously she inspired you. Who else inspires you or has inspired you along the way or continues to inspire you?
Well, obviously my son, is a huge inspiration, and other women. I feel so bonded when I talk to women like you and my friends in the entrepreneurial community, but and my friend Nikki. And when I hear the struggles and the journeys that they're going through, their entrepreneurial journeys, I feel so connected to them, and I feel it just motivates me. It really motivates me to work hard to be successful, so that I can be added to those stories that teach young girls, yes, you can. You can absolutely do this. I don't know if it's having that impact on my own son. He's kind of like, I will never do what you do. So, I don't know if it's working for him, but
those could be famous last words. You never know.
Yeah. I'm not a Hallmark movie yet, but working toward it. But that it inspires me, just the idea of bringing children together, and how can we make the world a better place? I can't reach everyone, but I feel a burning in my soul to provide quality learning materials, not cheap plastic throwaway junk, and not mindless internet time. I feel a conviction to provide a quality learning resources that they can keep forever and that can grow and evolve. And we add artificial intelligence, and it recognizes when a child learns 100 Deutschlist words and can move them up to the next level, So I'm living in the future, and I'm excited about it because the parents that I connect with now, we are on the same page, and the Polyblocks tribe is small, it's growing. And it's just amazing to see these parents that have the same conviction to raise awesome kids and change the world. That's what I'm about. It's just, that's what motivates me. It's, I want awesome kids, in the world.
Well, your passion doesn't come through at all. Just so
I wish it did. Yeah.
There's no passion or enthusiasm there at all.
I know.
So this has been amazing. So people are listening, or people are watching this, or both, and they want to get their hands on a set of Polyblocks, or they want to connect with you, or they want to learn more either about you or about the company, maybe how they can get involved. What's the best way for them to do that?
Thank you. I would love, and it would be so rewarding for me to reach more people. I would, I don't think I'm the greatest at social media, honestly. And I'm just going to be honest. I don't think I am I think I've been, for me, I've been successful on Facebook the most. And I literally have one follower on Twitter. So if they would like to follow me on Twitter, that would be great, because I just put Polyblocks on Twitter. So the way that they can connect with me is just, go to our website, ilovepolyblocks.com. You can see the product there.
ilovepolyblocks.com.
Yes.
Okay.
And, because of the pandemic, we are not manufacturing right now. So I do have some of the classic sets available. We've been doing donations and fundraisers and donating them to different schools. For example, the Early Learning Coalition of Orange County is still caring for children of first responders. So that was a no-brainer for me. It was like, pick up a giant box and send that to them. So, I will never let money get in the way of someone that needs learning resources. So we do have a lot of community partners. Find us on Facebook. If there's anything that we can do, or if they would like to get involved and help us get Polyblocks to children, then it's as easy as just, connecting with me, and I'll tell them how to do it.
Fantastic. So for anyone listening, if you're not watching the video, Laresa did show an example of Polyblocks and what they look like. And I asked her ahead of time. So if you really want to see them and learn more about it, if you go to the ilovepolyblocks.com, you can actually see more about them. But your best thing is to get your hands on a set of these and help support Polyblocks. Doing amazing things. I have no doubt in my mind, Laresa, that this is just going to continue to grow.
Thank you.
Hopefully I'm going to be having another interview with you, kind of down the road, and you're going to be talking about how you just had to fit me into your schedule because Polyblocks has just gone crazy.
That would be so great. I'll always have time for you, Heather.
This has been wonderful. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
I so love what you're doing.
Thank you.
You already know that, but I want people listening and watching this to, Laresa is the real deal. She's the real deal here. This is truly an inspiring story. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Back at you. You are the real deal. You are an amazing inspiration, and you are an example of a woman that uplifts other women. And I am so honored and privileged to call you friend.
Oh, well, thank you. I am your friend, and thank you. This has been great. So we'll stop the love because Laresa and I could go on and on.
Yeah.
But again, I have spent time with Laresa Tapia, inventor and CEO of Polyblocks, and you can find her on Facebook. You can find her on LinkedIn, or you can go to ilovepolyblocks.com and learn so much more about her and the wonderful things she's doing. So thank you, Laresa. Have a wonderful weekend.
You too.
We'll talk soon.
Talk soon. Thank you, Heather. Bye.